They told you success was about hustle, about strategy, about waking up at 5 a.m. and grinding until your bones ached. But what they forgot to tell you, what they never taught you in school, is that none of that matters if you can't first command the storm within. Because your greatest enemy has never been failure. It has never been rejection. It has never even been the doubters who laughed while you built in silence. No, your greatest enemy lives behind your ribcage. Your emotions, unchecked, will sabotage everything you build. They will whisper lies in moments of fatigue. They will inflate fear until your dreams shrink to fit inside your comfort zone. They will pull you off your path, not with thunder, but with doubt so quiet you mistake it for reason. Until you learn to master your emotions, your ambition is at the mercy of your moods. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you walked away from because fear dressed itself as logic? How many late nights did anger convince you to quit? How many times did you feel like a fraud? Not because you lacked talent, but because anxiety drowned your truth. Understand this now. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are your raw power. But power without mastery is chaos. Look to the greats. Abraham Lincoln led not with bluster, but with emotional steel. Betrayed, berated, broken, he stood unmoved. Not because he felt nothing, but because he felt everything, and still chose wisdom. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times in darkness before giving the world light. But he never let frustration break him. His emotions were tamed, not muted, focused like a beam of fire on a single idea. I will succeed or I will learn. You must understand, emotion is energy, but direction is a decision. And if you don't decide where your emotions go, they will decide for you. Every emotional outburst is a missed opportunity to remain in control. Every breakdown is a fork in the road, spiral, or rise. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Most people aren't lazy. They're emotionally undisciplined. They don't follow through, not because they're incapable, but because their inner temperature controls their outer results. A single bad mood, and the whole plan collapses. A single failure, and they redefine themselves as defeated. But there is another way. The ones who build legacies, the Fords, the Carnegies, the Disneys, they don't just set goals. They don't just visualize. They command the emotional forces that destroy others. Henry Ford was told his vision was impossible, that cars were a luxury for the rich and always would be, but Ford wasn't driven by logic alone. He was driven by an inner fire that refused to bow to the emotions of fear or doubt. He didn't just build the assembly line, he built the mindset that made the impossible inevitable. You are not here to be ruled by your emotional impulses. You are here to bend them into allies. You are here to train the wild animal within you so that it works for you, not against you. And that training begins with awareness. You cannot fight what you refuse to name, so name it. Name the anger that rises when you don't get instant results. Name the jealousy that poisons your progress. Name the sadness that tempts you to abandon your purpose. Then ask it, what are you trying to protect me from? Because behind every emotion is a need, and behind every need is a choice. You don't escape emotional sabotage by suppression. You escape it through strategy. Emotions are like fire. In a fireplace, they warm the house. Left wild, they burn it to the ground. So build your fireplace, build your mental system, know your triggers, know your patterns, and build habits that allow you to pause, breathe, recalibrate, and decide who you want to be in that moment. Not later, not when it's convenient. In that moment, because emotional mastery isn't tested on sunny days, it's proven in the storm, and the storm is coming for all of us. The storm will arrive unannounced, a betrayal you didn't see coming, a rejection that cuts deeper than expected, a sudden loss that rips away your certainty. And in that moment, the voice inside you will scream, fall apart, give up, run. But you won't. Not because you're numb, not because you don't feel. You'll stand your ground because you've trained for this, because you've built yourself not around your feelings, but around your decisions. You will whisper to your emotions, I see you, I hear you, but I do not obey you. You'll do what needs to be done while your heart trembles. You'll speak calm while your soul rages. You'll act with precision while your fear howls in protest. That is strength. That is power. That is the difference between a life dictated by moods and a life sculpted by purpose. Emotional mastery isn't cold. It's not robotic. It's not the absence of feeling. It's the alignment of feeling with vision. And that kind of alignment, that kind of discipline, it gives birth to clarity. Clarity is the sword that cuts through emotional fog. When you know who you are and where you're going, distractions lose their power. You stop reacting to every bump in the road. You stop crumbling under pressure. Because you've burned the destination into your mind so deeply, no amount of doubt can erase it. That clarity turns chaos into instruction. You don't just ask, why is this happening to me? You ask, what is this trying to teach me? Walt Disney was bankrupt, betrayed, and rejected countless times. Studios stole his characters. Investors pulled out. Critics mocked his dreams. But he kept going. Why? Because he wasn't fueled by applause. He was fueled by clarity. He knew exactly what he came to create, a world where imagination triumphed over limitation. So when the world said no, he said, watch me. You must become like that. You must know your purpose so intimately that your emotions bow to it, not the other way around. Once you gain clarity, something else begins to awaken, discipline. And discipline, contrary to the myths you've heard, is not punishment. It is freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of your moods. Freedom from the chaos of impulse. Freedom from the trap of short-term comfort. Discipline is how you honor your future over your feelings. It's the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. And it's built not in giant leaps, but in microscopic moments. Those seconds where you choose discomfort over ease, repetition over excuse, and growth over indulgence. Every morning you rise without motivation and still move forward. That's discipline. Every time you say no to what pulls you off track, that's power. And every day you do the work, regardless of mood, you send a message to your subconscious. I am in charge now. This is how the greats rise. Not because they never feel fear, not because they're always confident, but because they've learned to show up anyway. Benjamin Franklin didn't wait to feel ready. He created a system of daily self-discipline, tracking virtues like a scientist. He understood what most never learn, that mastery is not a feeling, it's a ritual, and rituals reshape identity. The more you act with discipline, the more your emotional chaos dissolves, because your emotions no longer get to run the show. They still speak, but they don't command. You don't silence them, you outgrow them. And once discipline becomes who you are, you unlock something even deeper. Gratitude. Not the surface kind, not the forced kind. I'm talking about the gratitude that changes your biochemistry, the kind that rewires your emotional defaults. Gratitude is the antidote to anxiety. It is the emotion that grounds you when the world spins. It breaks the cycle of not enough and opens the gate to already blessed. And here's the paradox. The more disciplined you become, the more grateful you feel. Because you no longer chase validation, you generate it. You're no longer a slave to comparison. You stand in your own lane and own it. Gratitude doesn't make you soft. It makes you focused. It silences noise. It reminds you you already have what it takes. And with that realization, your emotions begin to shift. You stop fearing the future. You stop regretting the past. You live here, now, full force and unshakable. When gratitude becomes your ground, resilience becomes your wings. Because life will test you, not once, not twice, but again and again, until you decide who you are when nothing is going your way. Resilience is not just endurance. It is the emotional muscle you build every time life knocks the wind from your lungs and you breathe anyway. It's what separates those who dream from those who do. Let me remind you, Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah Winfrey was fired because she was unfit for television. Steve Jobs was kicked out of the very company he built, but none of them stayed down. Why? Because resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward. It's the refusal to let pain have the final word. It's the inner defiance that says, this setback, this moment, this heartbreak will not define me. It will refine me. And that kind of resilience, it doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from integration, from facing your darkness and using it as fuel. You don't gain emotional strength by avoiding struggle. You gain it by stepping into the fire and saying, I will not be burned, I will be forged. Because that's what you are, a forge. Every hardship is hammer and heat. Every trial is pressure and flame. And every time you stay standing, you're not just surviving, you're sharpening. That is how you become unstoppable. And yet, being unstoppable doesn't mean being rigid. It means knowing how to adapt. Because emotional power is not stubbornness. It's not clenching your fists and trying to force the world to obey your will. It's about adjusting with wisdom without compromising your core. Charles Darwin didn't say the strongest survive. He said the most adaptable do. And adaptability is an emotional art. It is the art of releasing control, not of your vision, but of your attachment to how you thought it would all unfold. It's when you pivot instead of panic. It's when you say, this didn't go to plan, and instead of falling apart, you bend, breathe, and build again. You don't abandon the mission, you revise the map. That's what emotionally agile people do. They don't lose themselves in change, they evolve. They don't get stuck mourning how it was supposed to be. They create what comes next. They adjust the sails, not the destination. And in doing so, they don't just weather the storm, they use it. That is the power you carry right now. Not to control the winds, but to control the ship. True mastery doesn't scream, it listens, it doesn't dominate, it understands. This is the realm of emotional intelligence, the silent power that separates those who react from those who lead. Emotional intelligence is not about avoiding your feelings, it's about translating them. It's about reading the weather inside your mind and knowing when to step out and when to step through. It's about recognizing, I'm angry, and instead of exploding, you investigate. It's about noticing, I'm afraid, and instead of retreating, you redirect. Because intelligence without emotional control is like a car without brakes, fast, impressive, and destined to crash. Those who shape the world, those who leave legacies, don't just think clearly. They feel wisely. Martin Luther King Jr. walked into hatred with peace, faced violence with vision. He had every right to rage, but chose courage. Not because he didn't feel the fury, but because he knew the assignment was bigger than the emotion of the moment. That is emotional mastery in motion. It's the ability to pause when the world pushes, to reflect when everything demands reaction, to see a bigger picture, even through the blur of pain. And do you know what fuels that kind of clarity? Learning. Relentless, humble, lifelong learning. Andrew Carnegie, born in poverty, didn't inherit greatness. He built it page by page, principle by principle. He used knowledge not just to grow in wealth, but in wisdom. He filled his life with books, ideas, mentors, and humility. Because emotionally intelligent people understand this. The mind that knows everything learns nothing. But the mind that stays open evolves endlessly. Every lesson you choose to learn, whether from a book, a mistake, or a heartbreak, becomes a new gear in your emotional machinery. It refines your decisions. It sharpens your instincts. It expands your empathy. You start seeing people more clearly. You start seeing yourself more clearly. And slowly, one day at a time, you begin building something greater than success. You begin building legacy. because emotional mastery isn't just for you, it's for the people who will stand in your shadow and say, "She never gave up. He didn't let life make him bitter. They walked through the fire and still lit a torch for others." That is your responsibility now, to master your emotions, not just for your dreams, but for your impact, for the strangers who will never meet you, but will feel the ripple of your example. And that is where this journey ends, not in silence, but in strength. So now the question becomes, who are you going to be when the moment tests you? Not when you're winning, not when the applause is loud, but when no one's watching, when the doubts crawl in like fog, when your vision feels far and your heart feels tired. Will you let your emotions drag you back into the shadows, or will you stand? Because mastery is not declared. It is chosen again and again and again, in the quiet, in the chaos, in the small, unseen moments that shape everything. You won't always feel like it. You will have days where the weight feels unbearable, where the voice in your head is louder than your vision, but on those days, you will remember this truth. You are not your fear. You are not your anger. You are not your exhaustion. You are the one who sees it and chooses differently, because that is where all power lives. In the choice to breathe instead of break, to move forward when everything says stop, to forgive yourself when you fall short and rise anyway. That's the difference between a life of reaction and a life of design. You are the designer now, the architect of your mental environment, the author of your emotional narrative, the sculptor of your own strength and the world. It doesn't need another person chasing status or applause. It needs someone who knows how to stay calm in the chaos, who can lead not from ego but from emotional clarity, who can walk through storms and still carry light. Let that be you. Let that be your story. Not a perfect life, not an easy life, but a powerful one. A life where emotions don't control you, they serve you. Where fear becomes focus, where pain becomes purpose, where every challenge is turned into fuel. So today, right now, make a silent promise to yourself. No more excuses. No more letting your emotions sabotage your greatness. No more shrinking in the face of uncertainty. From this moment on, you rise, you lead, you feel with intention, you act with integrity, you build with vision, because your emotions are no longer your master, they are your fire, and you are the flame keeper. You've always had the power, now you have the choice. Master your emotions before they master you, and the world will never forget your name.